What's going on, everybody? This is your boy Tidal Wave, and I'm gonna hit you guys with a tier list video. A lot of people be doing tier list videos over all kinds of different games, and I've seen a couple of different tier lists done about stuff in Destiny, but I'm covering something that's basically the only thing that's relevant in PvP at the time, and that is supers. The goddamn supers. Everything about Destiny 2's PvP in Season of Opulence is determined by the supers. So it's the most memey thing ever, and to cover the most memey, super infested crucible meta I've ever seen, I decided to meme on you guys with a little bit of a tier list regarding them. So I'm going to be judging them based on how good they are against Guardians mixed with how good they are against other supers. And, you know, I'm hoping to spark a conversation. This is super, super opinionated. Also, I know that I'm going to have to update this very soon with Shadowkeep coming around the corner. I'm aware of a lot of the changes, and I'm excited for a lot of the changes. Got me really pumped. But supers. S rank is going to be like stuff that's basically useful in any situation. I'm talking low risk, high reward, almost no risk, high reward, you know? They're good against Guardians, they're good against people in your super, they counter so much other things in the Crucible, they're usable, like I said, almost all the time. You pop it, success just happens. A tier is like minimal risk, super high reward, really well crafted supers, stuff that's like really good against Guardians, really good against supers, has like minimum flaws, but you can exploit them. You know, they have weaknesses, they are there, but they're still super fucking strong. B are like, they're really usable, they're strong, they have a little bit more glaring issues, and there's a lot more room for error, but they're still super strong and they have a lot of use, not necessarily going to dominate like A and S. C is, they still have a lot of usefulness, but the usefulness and the actual amount of room for error is way more glaring than anything that's B, A, and S. They're actually going to have a lot more niche use, or they're going to be countered hard by certain playstyles or certain subclasses or certain other supers that actually has to make them and force them down into C. D tier is supers that have some killing power, but most of the time you want to avoid using these because their downsides are just so glaring that most of the time they're going to be like inconsistent or just bad in general. And E tier is supers that are, even if you use them perfectly, sometimes they're just going to be so inconsistent that you're going to get nothing out of it, or you're going to get even outright killed. Now, I tried to really focus in a lot on E tier and make sure that they belong there. So I've tested them out a lot myself, and this is coming from someone who plays a lot of Crucible. I'd like to think that my opinion matters a little bit, but then again, I did play a lot of my comp during this memey season, where a lot of it is just literally determined by how well you use your overpowered as hell super. So we're going to get right into it. I'm just going to go and rank them as they come up. Hopefully you guys get the references. Hopefully it makes sense by what you're looking at, because I think it all makes sense in my eyes. So, Banner Shield. By the way, actually, before I go ahead and start placing these, this is how the super operates without any exotic help whatsoever. So before you guys get confused and you're like, well, with this and this, you know, this super is way above everything else, and if you actually use, you know, the Crown of Sorrow or the Crown of Tempest on a Warlock Stormcaller, no. This is just how the super operates by itself. No exotics, no nothing to help it. Okay, so let's get ready for controversy. Banner Shield. Banner Shield. Oh, how fun this one was. So Banner Shield is basically just like a Sentinel Titan walking around, but they have that big ass shield, and it can block more damage, and it can suppress other supers that walk close to them. Now that's a little bit more well known, people figure that super out. It's easier just to avoid it if you're casting a super, and it's a little bit harder to push Guardians with any Sentinel shield, because the melee is just so busted. So with this class, you get one shield throw, and that's it. After that, you know, you're usually like just done. People just run away from you, your melees don't connect, but it's not terrible. You know, it can block a lot of super damage from like Dawn Blades, Golden Guns, Blade Barrages, stuff like that. So it's not terrible, but it's definitely not that great. It doesn't have much killing power against other supers. You know, they can mostly just avoid you, and a lot of roaming supers don't really have to engage you. Now, there's some ways that they can even take you out outright. So for now, I'm honestly going to put the first one in D, Banner Shield in D. It's not terrible, but it's worth noting that it's like Sentinel Shields just need that melee buff, man. Like, it's crazy. Hopefully I'll see that in Shadowkeep. I don't think I've heard anything about that. I've heard some stuff for Pathfinder and all that, but now we're going to get to our first cancel super of the bunch. This is Blade Barrage, and Blade Barrage, in my personal opinion and from using it, amongst all of the cancel supers is probably the best. It's able to quickly, like it's super quick. Projectiles are super quick. Even after the nerf, it's super strong to me. And it does its job very, very well. It's able to take out any grounded supers. Even in some circumstances, you're able to throw them up at Dawn Blades, like no problem. Tracking's really good. And especially on PC, it throws the 2 volleys, so you can snap one volley to a group of people or a super and then snap it the other way. Even if that's not if there's nothing there, it's kind of best to do this. You're able to cover 2 bits of ground, which no other cancel super in the game is able to do that. And of course, cancel supers are just those one-off supers, usually the ones you use against other supers to cancel them out. So with this, I'm going to, and I thought about this a lot. I don't really know any other place to put it but A. I'm going to put in A for now, but I'm going to put some thought into it and revisit it. I really think that this super is still very strong. Compared to all the other supers that are cancel supers in the game, this one has more mobility, it's quicker, and all that shit. Okay, so next one is the bottom tree arc staff. That's Way of the Wind. So amongst all of the arc staffs, this one I believe is a bit stronger than the warrior, and we'll get to that. It's a little bit further down the list at top tree all the way in the bottom. So bottom tree arc staff is pretty useful. It's a strong roaming super, and it's got it just doesn't have the duration of a lot of the other roaming supers that are out there. So it's really strong. It can reliably kill a lot of guardians. It struggles a little bit against supers, and that is because it doesn't really have any extra damage tagged onto it. So with bottom tree, you have the dodge is actually able to give you some damage resistance, and you're able to survive a little bit more. It's actually really useful against stuff like you can sometimes survive some blade barrage if the knives aren't completely connected to you, all that stuff. But the duration of a lot of these arc staff supers don't last as long as the others, and you're not able to just completely wipe the team like you are with some of these other roaming supers. But it's strong. But its weaknesses, of course, are range, duration, and it just being kind of inconsistent. Now, of course, with all of these Arc Strider supers, if a roamer comes up to you, you can just do the 3-hit combo. On the Palm Strike, it's going to one-hit any super in the game. So that is something that's going to be applicable to all of the Arc Staffs. I'm going to put this one at B tier. Of course, I have the little logo. The B for all of these is the bottom tree, top tree, or middle tree, if they don't have their own specific kind of emblem for themselves. For a lot of the middle trees, though, I have a unique emblem for it, so it should be kind of obvious what the fuck I'm talking about. Okay, so one of my favorite classes is up next. This is Multi-Bow, the Mobius Quiver, Way of the Pathfinder, and I've been using this a lot in Iron Banner especially. This is one of my favorite subclasses in the entire game. It's a lot of fun to use, and I put a lot of different work into this before I went in and placed it onto this tier list. This is universally considered to be one of the worst ults in the game. And after using it for a week and having a lot of success and getting a lot of cool clips with it, it's definitely worth that spot. It's not that good. So I'm going to put this in E, and I'm going to talk about it just a little bit more. Obviously, this one's going to be buffed, but even against a lot of supers that are weak and vulnerable to a Pathfinder or just being canceled out by a super, the duration of this, the actual super energy that you have, is not that much. So let's say you're trying to hold off a choke from a Striker Titan that's running at you, right? You're going to have to lead it so much. You're going to have to lead the shot almost directly under you or like right in front of you, and then just, camp that out. Well, that Striker's, if you shoot that shit right at the Striker and you miss, then they're not going to be suppressed, and they're going to run, and they're going to, shoulder charge right outside of the range of that shit. Easy. Every single time. The radius is not big enough for you to shoot directly at like a Striker Titan, because they can just jump right out of it. Now, if you direct hit them, which is great, then they're immediately canceled. The problem with that is, with how fast a lot of these roamers are, and with the abilities of them, especially with Striker Titan, like I'm talking a lot about Striker Titan, they can just shoulder charge dash away from where you're shooting and throw off your shot by so much. And then the actual anchor itself is not going to grab you, not with the range that it has. So they can dance around a lot where like these anchors are. And then on top of that, you're not going to one-shot a roaming Guardian or just a normal Guardian ever. That's not going to happen. So there's a lot of just room for error with this ability, And of course, whenever you pop the super, whenever you stop shooting it, your armor goes away. So, not shooting all of your shots at once can kind of have a negative effect. You're just going to fucking die. So it deserves E rank. It's pretty garbage, and whenever used right, it's still not even the best. It's just like, it's so unsatisfying whenever you use it right and you still get mopped up by players who have a brain. However, whenever you hit a nice clip with it, it's probably the most fun and satisfying feeling that I've ever had in my life. So next up is going to be Bottom Tree Dawn Blade. So bottom tree Dawnblade, I'm pretty sure everyone fucking knows already how strong this stupid super is. Bottom tree Dawnblade is going to be my first S tier. I'm going to explain. I'm going to put some deep thought into it, even though I'm pretty sure people already know why. It's going to be fucking S tier. It's kind of ridiculous. So there's top tree and then there's bottom tree Dawnblade. They both are the same super, but they act so much different. So bottom tree Dawnblade gets the homing ability with the swords. It gets an area of effect with the swords. And every single kill gives you your super energy back. This is no exotics. This is just how it works. And on top of that, you have that extra ability that not many people use where you dive to the ground and you get your health regen. It's kind of stacked. Now, why it's an S tier is because you can basically pop it anywhere on the map and map the entire map. No matter what map it is, it can be, you know, Burning Shrine. It can be that Equinox map, or it can be Nuketown on Call of Duty, or it can be Wasteland on Call of Duty. It can map all that stuff. It can be anything, and Dawnblade will be there. So yeah, it definitely deserves S tier. It can counter a lot of supers. It can clear out Guardians like mad, and the reason it can counter most supers too is because it flies. Most of these roaming supers, other roaming supers in the game, are grounded. Most of the threats that you're going to encounter are stuff like Golden Gun. Golden Gun's going to be probably your biggest threat. After that, who cares? You're fine. You can run away from Nova Bombs. They're too slow. Slovo Bomb, it's called Slovo Bomb for a reason. Just run. Who cares? You're going to have enough super energy to kill the rest of the team after you dodge the Nova Bomb anyways. Big yikes. This is interesting super for sure. I'm going to be, you know, hopefully they're going to balance it out between the top and the bottom tree, because bottom tree is heavily favored for almost no reason. Top tree is given almost no leverage compared to this, but we'll get to that once we cover top tree. Dawnblade for sure. So yeah, the next one is going to be the bottom tree. Way of the Sharpshooter on the Hunter. Way of the Sharpshooter is just the 3-shot Golden Gun with the ability to get a headshot, and headshots increase the duration. So the thing with a Golden Gun is that they kind of lack the duration to actually map and just be a huge map presence for a long time. It's mostly just hide it out for however many seconds that it lasts, and then you're good. This one struggles at getting kills. Once you get a headshot, though, you're going to have that longer duration, which is kind of useful. That can kind of surprise people, too, because it's not picked as much. But its main weaknesses are ammunition. I mean, even though a headshot's going to one-shot a super, if you're missing those shots, which is not that hard to do, you're not going to be able to, you know, follow up. You're going to run out of your super, and then you're SOL, basically. However, it's not without its strengths, like its Golden Gun. And like I said, it has the added benefit of being able to headshot supers and one-tap them. And then, of course, you're able to headshot any Guardian. You're going to have that increased duration. It's just not the same presence as the top tree Way of the Outlaw. So I'm going to put it in C. I don't think it deserves to be D because it's not that bad. But it definitely is nowhere near as big of a presence as these B, A, and S tiers. These guys are some hard hitters. C tier is kind of where you're starting to fall off. So this is bottom tree of the hammer throwing titan. This is the one with the sunspots and the increased duration because of the sunspots. So of course you're gonna have the increased duration while passing through the sunspots, and the sunspot sun warrior little buff thing lasts 5 seconds after going through it. This is a really good super against guardians and against supers. The one thing that stinks about this super is that, you know, you're not going to be able to have that homing that the top tree hammer has, and you're not going to have the area of effect for the extra damage as well. It's got the sunspot for it instead. So this one I might have to revisit. I'm almost half tempted to put it into B tier, but I really want to put it into A tier because it's still just such a good super cleanup tool. You can use it against a number of different like Nova Warps, against Way of the Wraith, against a lot of the Arc Striders. I'm going to get to Middle Tree Arc Strider in a second. And you can just kind of clean them up easy, 2-tap them, and then heal yourself, of course. I just don't see as many people using it. This is my preferred hammer, though. This is what I like to use in the hammer. I like it more than the area of effect hammer. But, you know, there's so many different people that are trying to tell me that top tree is way better. I don't necessarily believe them. I feel like they're on par. But I'm going to revisit them. They're going to be one of them that I'm going to revisit by the end of the video. So this is going to be, until further notice, A tier. I really like this. It has a good duration. It can kill guardians easy. It requires just a bit more aiming, which is just fine, you know, learning curve, but it lasts longer. I feel like these trees are very, very balanced compared to everything else. This one has the increased duration, but a worse projectile. And that makes sense. I don't understand why every other super just is so imbalanced. I'm looking at Dawnblade in specific. That shit is balanced so terribly. Okay, now we got our Nova Bomb. This is Bottom Tree Nova Bomb. This is Hunger. This is the Vortex Nova Bomb. This is so bad in my opinion. Oh my god. So you can clear off a point of Guardians if they're capping an objective. You know, you can kill the, you know, really close Titan. Anyone who's kind of closed the gap. But it is a cancel super and it is a one-off. You can just throw it in one direction and it sits there and it makes this big black hole. A black hole that's so obvious, one that no one's going to go towards. Of course, if they actually walk into it, they're going to pretty much die immediately. But this thing is so bad. I don't feel like the explosive radius is really that huge. So there's a lot of room for error. And if you miss against these supers, then you're kind of boned. I really don't want to put this in the E tier. And I wasn't going to initially. I was going to say it's bad, but, you know, you can cancel out supers. You know, it's good. It's reliable at canceling out most supers as they rush you down. But the thing is about this is a lot of these supers have enough, you know, mobility to avoid this pretty easily. And especially since Dawnblade is so rampant in the Crucible, it literally is the only reason that I want to put it into E. There's no way you're going to counter a Dawnblade with a Nova Bomb, with a Bottom Tree Nova Bomb. It's not going to happen. Now, if you have any moment where you snipe somebody out of the air with a fucking Wave the Hunger Nova Bomb, I would love to see that. That'd be just the most spectacular video I've ever seen in my life. But for that reason only, with Dawnblades being so, like, just prolific, just so use me now in the Crucible, it's just, like, not even worth running this in the Crucible. You're going to run into so many Dawnblades that are going to be flying 50 feet in the air, and your Nova Bomb is not going to hit those people. Arc Souls. Landfall. This is Bottom Tree Arc Strider. And Bottom Tree Arc Strider's got one tool above the other Arc Strider that it's got in its arsenal, and that is Landfall. What Landfall does is whenever you activate it, you poop a bolt of lightning, and it does a massive amount of damage, and you can actually kill a super off with it. The problem with Landfall and this super as a whole is once you use Landfall, that is all that this super is worth, especially compared to its top tree counterpart. This might be the worst roaming super in the entire game. Once you use Landfall, you've got this short range lightning effect that isn't even as powerful as the top tree, and on top of that, your character has no movement abilities. And to be coupled with the no movement abilities thing, your character stands without really moving his character model in this easy to snipe kind of like just stance, like just hit me in the head, like just kill me now. I've had limited success with this subclass's super, and I've had even more limited success with actually landing Landfall. Landing Landfall is not an easy task. Whenever you do it, it feels really nice, but I don't think that it's enough to merit using this over Top Tree. Top Tree's got everything going for it. This is just like, I don't like it. Not enough range, not enough speed, no movement abilities, just happy fingers. It's not that good. I don't like it. All right, next is probably the best roaming super for the Sentinel. Is the double throw, the double shield throw. Now, on a normal, so with double shield throw, it kind of gave me a headache thinking about this compared to everything else. Double shield throw is super strong, but once you don't have a shield throw, you don't have much of anything going for you. Now, if this had the if all of the shields, right, if their melee attacks actually hit normally, I'd put this in B tier easily, because then it'd have killing power. But then, you know, once you're out of the shield throw, you'd actually be, you know, useful and able to kill stuff. As it stands right now, you're not able to kill shit once you throw the shields, but those shields are super strong. So unlike with the banner shield that just has the one shield throw to kill and then it's kind of SOL, this thing still has another shield throw to follow it up. So I'm going to put this in C. It's got some pretty blaring weaknesses. It's not that good against supers. It's not going to, you know, one-on-one any of the hammer titans. Now you can block some of the damage, but you're definitely not going to outright counter anything. So C tier it is. Shield throw is pretty good against guardians, but after that you are basically a walking useless shield dude. So this little logo is for everybody's favorite striker titan. And I think everyone knows where I want to put that. Hard to counter comes to mind. Extremely overbearing comes to mind. And lasts way too long comes to mind as well. You have to think, what were Bungie thinking to an extent whenever they have these kind of things in the game? And I usually don't want to take the podium as the guy saying, what the hell was Bungie thinking? But this is a very big, like, what the fuck were you thinking, man? So basically, since Forsaken has come out, there's been a super problem. It initially started with Way of the Wraith. Way of the Wraith originally gave you way too much super back. Gwij Invest was ridiculous. And there was a way to bug the super out completely. But even whenever you consider Way of the Wraith, not the bugged version, that one's the strongest super probably to have ever existed because it's infinite super. But Way of the Wraith, after it was quote-unquote still overpowered, it needed an exotic to regenerate its super, at least. And this Bottom Tree Striker does not need a super to regenerate any of its super. That's just built into it. On top of that, every single one of those little knees that it throws out is going to give you health regen. So it's a Spectral Blade that on initial cast does a slam, which can counter so many more supers. You start out with the initial slam, surprise like any like Way of the Wraith or something that's, you know, closing the gap with you. Just knee them in the face, regen all your health, and then kill the rest of the team. You're good. The only real threat that these Striker Titans are going to encounter are the, you know, the random Nova Bomb that's thrown their way, or even like the random Dawn Blade that's going to be in the sky where they can't be reached. Most of the time, though, these guys are just going to go uncontested and go through the entire team as if it's their playground. The next thing, though, that I'm going to talk about is going to be rather interesting. It's the Bubble Titan. And we all know that the Bubble Titan is going to be buffed. It's well deserving of a buff. And before I actually played with Ward of Dawn, I wanted to slap it right into D tier, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it in C tier. It's got some weaknesses, and it's got some pretty bad weaknesses, but it's got some counter ability. So the Ward of Dawn, believe me or not, counters both the S tiers pretty fucking well. And that's why I want to put it in C tier. Dawn Blade is not going to be able to puncture the bomb. The bomb. Yeah, that's what it is. The bubble. You're not going to be able to puncture it. And Bottom Tree Striker is not going to be able to pop the bubble. Nor is it going to be able to kill the Striker inside as long as they're, you know, covering their bases and actually shooting you with a shotgun type stuff. If for some reason you're rocking a sniper or a fusion, you're probably SOL. But there's even some times where you can just punch them to death. They do not do enough damage, I think, in even 3 slams or knees to kill you. Now I've made a whole video of the art of the bubble, and there were a lot of strikers that were trying to strike into my bubble. And the funniest thing is they hardly ever face bubbles, so they feel so invincible that they cast it and they're like, I got this is easy, it's a bubble, I never see this is garbage. And then I end up pooping on them, and they wonder why. You get a lot of health in Ward of Dawn, and you're able to take out those Bottom Tree Strikers pretty easy. Now Dawn Blades, they just can't really get into the bubble, but most of the time they're not going to just walk in like the Strikers are. They have to, or they can just run away. They got 2 options. Go in and die or run away. They should probably just run away and kill everybody else who's not in the bubble, because they definitely have the time and the strength to do that. But, you know, if they walk in, they're usually toast. Now, it runs into some problems with a lot of the other offhand supers that are in the game. Nova Bombs, for one, which, you know, aren't really used. Blade Barrage. If a Blade Barrage is used against your bubble, you are dead. One singular knife is enough to pop the bubble. It is the stupidest thing ever, but that's how it goes. Now, as to why it pops the bubble completely and why Banner Shield can eat Blade Barrage makes no sense to me. Which, by the way, why does Banner Shield completely break after getting shot by a hammerhead twice? Just 2 bullets. That doesn't make any sense. Why is it countered by heavies? It's also another reason why I got Banner Shield in D tier. This meta is so heavy bounded. It's just like Banner Shield just gets shot by any single heavy in the game and is gone. Hell, I even think swords, if you just take a sword and you stab him, there goes the shield. There goes your super. Sorry, buddy. Anyways, I digress from them. This is a duplicate logo. Didn't mean to use that. Next is going to be Way of the Outlaw, though. And I would really like to put it into A tier, but I think that it's just not the most consistent against other supers as people think. This is a Guardian Slayer. Way of the Outlaw just obliterates Guardians. It's the easiest thing. It becomes a point-and-click adventure, and you get a bullet back with every kill. Now, with a lot of these other supers, though, you know, it takes 2 shots to kill, which isn't terrible. But with something like a Dawnblade, if a Dawnblade throws his little tracking sword at you, you probably have enough time to kill him, but that sword probably has enough time to kill you too. And it's not going to be hard to kill you too, because you don't have any shields, you don't have any armor, you are a just walking normal guardian who happens to have, you know, the strongest weapon in history. I'm going to keep it in B. It's strong. Its main weakness is it just doesn't have, you know, overshields. So a lot of supers can just one-shot you. And of course, if they play their corners right, let's say you're walking on a choke, one of the chokes by Tumbler on Burning Shrine. If they just, you know you're coming around the corner, they can just pre-throw a hammer, pre-throw a blade, or they can just stand by it and wait until you get close enough so that they can shoulder charge you. I feel like it can be canceled out a lot easier than people think, but, you know, that's just me. Middle tree of the Arc Strider is my main. This is my favorite super in the entire game, and I have a reason for it. I'm going to put it in A tier, and not a lot of people use it. Where all of the other Arc Strider supers don't have a lot of duration, and this one doesn't as well, it actually makes sense for it not to have a lot of duration. This thing is a roaming super that can deflect other supers. It can be immortal at times. It can literally be unkillable by a lot of supers. And of course, as with all Arc Striders in the game, they have the 3-hit combo. You can just melee twice, and then if you time it right and they come around the corner, do the palm strike, there goes the Striker Titan. Now, because of the duration, it's not going to be into S tier just like the others. Of course, that can kind of be remedied with Radiant Flux, but we're not talking exotics, and even then, the Radiant Flux requires you to actually hit something. Whenever you deflect something as well, you gain 3 times damage, which can be very useful against something like hammers. You can block it, and even if you don't deflect the hammer right back at them, you can usually clean them up rather easily. Other things, it can block Way of the Wraith. You can have a little duel. Way of the Wraith really shouldn't be able to kill you if you're an Arc Strider, if you're a Middle Tree Arc Strider. You can just deflect them, and then just wipe them up with your melee abilities. Now, there are some supers that are not exactly easy to deflect back, or, you know, the explosion of the actual projectile can be used to damage you, so they can just throw it at your feet. But in those situations, you can easily escape with your life. You're not going to be, you know, forced to engage. You can kind of run away while deflecting. You're good. This is the strongest Arc Strider in the game. I'm very, very adamant on that. And with that, I'm going to conclude that it's strong against Guardians as well. I mean, if they have heavies, you can just deflect the heavies. Even Warcliffe. Oh yeah, and my favorite thing to do is Blade Barrage. Just deflect the Blade Barrage, man. So, you know, my favorite super in the game, personally. It's my main. Love it to death. But we're going to move on. Way of the Missiles next, and that's another cancel super. Now, there's a lot of people who live and die by the missile, you know. Missile's fun. It's not the strongest cancel super. I still believe adamantly in Blade Barrage being that. And on top of that, you know, it's got some weaknesses. It's fast, but it is very, very one-off. I believe that it's weaker in strength to the Nova Bomb's overall damage. That's not going to give you too many problems. But I'm actually going to have to think here for a second, because I originally, whenever I was doing this before actually getting the recording down, I was going to put this in C tier. But personally, whenever you look at the whole list of everything here, this is a super that's going to counter pretty much everything in the game. Not many supers are going to be able to react fast enough to kill you outright. I'm going to put this right below Blade Barrage in B tier. Way of the Missile is fast. Way of the Missile is not easy to counter. And it has a huge, huge explosive radius. So unlike a Nova Bomb's projectile, you're way quicker. You're able to quickly just dog down these Guardians. I think it's a guaranteed kill. I think every single time you cast this, you should get a kill. And plus, you know, it's you. It's just so cool. You become the projectile in a way. Yeah, it's hard for people to deal with this. You're going to get that guaranteed kill. Huge radius, leaves a little electricity on the ground, which isn't going to net you too many kills, but it happens from time to time. I can't really think of any other super that's going to counter this, but, you know, there it is. Nova Warp. Now, I don't want to put Nova Warp into A tier, or do I? Nova Warp is still really strong, so it used to be like S tier for sure. Like, it used to be just all-encompassing. You know, you just kind of use it, teleport, blow up, and you are healed. It's got a lot of movement. It's got healing, but it doesn't have any way to increase its duration just by itself or with any exotics, really. And once again, we're not really talking about exotics. This thing is amazing against Guardians, but it struggles against supers. It struggles against a lot of supers. Striker Titan's going to be able to clean it up. Dawnblade's going to be able to clean it up. Golden Gun's going to be able to clean it up. Arc Striders, list goes on. So that's why I'm going to put it into B tier instead of A tier. It's got incredible movement, and it's not going to be outright countered in every situation. With some skilled play and some good spacing, you can kind of deal with like Arc Striders, Spectral Blades. You just got to be smart about what you're doing. It'd be an insult to put it into C tier. It's, in my opinion, really, really good with, you know, all things considered. Infinite teleports, blink, very good stuff. So here's another cancel super in my opinion. I don't think a lot of people consider this a cancel super, but Chaos Reach. Hyper Beam, blinding your fucking eyes. So it's kind of hard to use because of the fact that it blinds your eyes out. But I don't want to put it into D tier or into E. A lot of people do not like this super, but I feel like as a cancel super, it's right under the missile in that it's not guaranteed. You know, it's got a little bit of movement to it, but you're not, once you use it, you're basically in that spot, which kind of sucks. It's got some good duration to it, so it's able to pick up, I believe, more kills than a Nova Bomb. I'm going to put it into C. Really good at cleaning up Guardians. And if you fail with the super, it's the only super in the game you can cancel and get your energy back. That's the big thing here. So with that, I'm going to keep it into C. I think it deserves to be there. It's not the greatest. It could be better. I feel like the blinding, the camera work is so jarring and so clunky that it makes me want to vomit every time I use it. But C tier is respectable for it. Megaton Hammer. This is the two-handed hammer, the middle tree of your hammer titans. So a lot of people don't really use this hammer even after all of the buffs. And I think, and I really believe that's just because its neutral game, its like normal kit is terrible. On top of that, it's really not got the same map presence as, say, the normal hammers, like the throwing hammers. You know, you have to get in kind of relatively close. But once you get in close, those tornadoes will seek out your targets like super aggressive. I honestly half want to put it into A, but I'm not going to. I'm going to put it into B tier. It doesn't deserve to be in C, and this is why. This hammer counters every super in the game. It counters every super in the game, except for maybe, you know, Dawnblade and Golden Gun. Every super that's not a cancel super is going to be just eaten up by this thing. The only reason I don't think it deserves to be in A tier is because it doesn't have stuff like getting the duration increased, or killing Guardians is kind of what it struggles with. You know, it can't really close the gap. People can run away from it. It's got a good duration as it is if you're not using anything. So if you're smart about it, you can just kind of wait, chase them down, and wait to slam whenever you think you're going to get kills. Also, one big thing that kind of stinks about it, the really spammable spinny melee attack that you could use to kill single Guardians doesn't work. It works just even worse, I believe, than the Sentinel Titans melee, like main melee. So because of that, it remains in B. But Nova Warps, Arc Striders, even the ones that deflect Way of the Wraiths, countered by this. I wish that the super was used more. I believe that it's really, really strong. But, you know, that's just me. It also doesn't have to really engage and run straight into a room. It can, and every one of its slams are really, really big in radius. So if you run directly into a room and slam, you're going to kill everything around you. But if you suspect that somebody's, you know, using one of those cancel supers, a Nova Bomb, a Chaos Reach, or something you just don't really want to approach, you can sit behind a wall and just shoot the tornadoes in. That's not how I would recommend doing it. I usually, if I'm using this tree, I'm using it to counter other supers, other roaming supers. That's what it's best at. I really wish people would use this thing more. It's really, really strong. So, oh, and I just realized I got to top tree of the... No, wait, no. We're good. We're on track. This is Way of the Warrior. I was about to make an oopsie and say this was Way of the Wind. I got him confused. Way of the Warrior has a dodge ability that increases damage. It gives a little aftershock and makes it a little bit stronger against supers. The thing with this is I don't believe that it's necessarily useful. I believe that the best way that an Arc Strider can deal with a super is just by doing the 3-hit melee combo. I don't think that using the dodge and then engaging them that way is necessarily the best way to deal with any super. In fact, I think that it struggles against a lot of supers. It's going to not really be useful. That aftershock ability is not really going to be useful against supers. You got to think that if you run at a hammer using top tree, they're just going to throw one hammer and the explosion is going to kill you. Or even bottom tree can just keep their distance and keep pegging you with hammers with you not being able to do much of anything. I believe that it's still a strong roaming super. I'm on the cusp of putting it into C tier. I really feel like it belongs in there. It doesn't have a lot of, it doesn't last super long, and I believe that its ability doesn't really give it too much. Whereas Way of the Wind, the reason that it's in B is because its dodge ability is actually, just randomly useful. Heavies, Blade Barrages sometimes. Yeah, I believe that it does belong in C tier. I really don't see people using that tree too much. It's not because the super's bad, mind you. It's just because the whole kit kind of isn't the greatest. You can do some stuff, don't get me wrong. Arc Strider's my favorite. Chill. If you're gonna flame me for this, chill. I've had some thought about it. Just the bottom trees and the middle trees are on a whole different level from this, in my opinion. The extra damage is just negligible. So here is Top Tree Dawnblade. Top Tree Dawnblade is a little bit faster than bottom tree, just because it's got the dodge. You can dodge and kind of get around the map even faster. But your duration takes a hit, and your projectiles take a hit. And you don't have the area effect. The projectiles of these are terrible. And your super lasts, nothing. You would be good to get a couple kills against some Guardians, maybe 3, and then you're done. Most of the time you're missing. The swords are not that fast. You're usually throwing at them from above. They can be avoided rather easily. You have to do a lot of predicting the movements of the enemies. You have the dodge. You don't have the health regen. You don't get increased duration. I don't know why they have so little ability tagged onto the super. Do you honestly think that just because this thing has a dodge and regenerates all of your abilities on cast that it deserves to last a shorter duration, have no AoE, and no tracking? That is dumb. This thing deserves C tier, but because it's kind of fast and has a lot of map presence, I'll put it in C, not D. It's right on the cusp, though. I just don't believe it's that great. Taking out of the supers, well, you can float above them, but I don't believe you can reliably take out supers, without the explosive, oomph of the other tree. It's just kind of crap. And on top of that, it can just be dodged, a Striker Titan can just avoid that pretty easily. Code of the Fireforged, it's what's next. So this is the throwing hammer with the bombs. And I am going to slap that right into A. It is a strong super. I believe it's very well balanced in my opinion. So basically, it's got shorter duration than the bottom tree hammer, but it's going to have the tracking and the explosive capabilities. And now that I'm thinking about it, I really do want to put bottom tree into B tier because it's got that weakness of not having tracking. Both of these are great at securing kills. It's going to be easy to secure kills against Guardians and supers. Way of the Wraith stands no chance against this, and other supers are just easier to counter with this tree as compared to bottom. So with that, I'm also going to put this down into B tier. It's still super strong now in this meta, but it just lacks the oomph and the ease of use of this tree, of this top tree. Definitely a stronger super. This is all seeming to come together. I like where everything's landing up. I'm liking what I'm putting out there. All right, top tree, Slova Bomb. This one's got more use than bottom tree. It actually can hit Dawnblades. Woohoo. So it'll seek out its targets and produce the little tracking, seeking, Axiom Bolt things that will one-hit kill a normal Guardian. However, it's just, it's just a one-off thing. I don't believe it's that great, to be completely honest with you. And I'm going to put it into D tier. Just because it tracks, it's got some usefulness. It works, These other ones on the bottom just seem to not really work too well in a lot of situations. And this one, it's got something there. It's got a little bit of extra, where the hunger just has nothing. It's got the one explosion, and everyone's going to avoid the big-ass black hole that it leaves behind. These Axiom Bolts are a little bit more like, holy shit, and the Seeking's a little scary. It's a little inconsistent, though. That's the main issue, and that's why it doesn't get into C tier. It's super inconsistent. The tracking can be like manipulated by its target. They can just run around a corner and then boom, it blows up into a wall. It's done. Rip. Top Tree Stormcaller. This one's got Transcendence. With Transcendence, if your abilities are full, you're not going to you're going to be able to increase the duration of it right off the bat. It's going to have a longer lasting super, and it's going to heal you on cast. That's pretty cool. Now it's got a movement ability with Ionic Blink and a little bit of chaining, and you know, that's all well and good. However, it's not going to make it into these top tiers where it was like, you know, back in Destiny 1 where it was just the longest lasting super ever with Transcendence. It was completely destroying you. It was doing this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. And it's not going to even reach C tier because it is bugged. It is bugged where you'll teleport and then the electricity will not activate. That is the most frustrating thing. So it's not even going to make it into C tier. It's countered by so many different supers already. It's got a long last. It's got a good AoE. It's good against normal Guardians. It is completely wrecked by most of the supers in this game. Doesn't do enough damage, you know. Who cares? D tier. It's just not an E tier because of its longer lasting and its movement ability. However, it is extremely vulnerable, just easy to kill super. I mean, I can go through this list. Chaos Reach? Yeah. The Bubble? Sure. Hell, Middle Tree Arc Strider can completely just deflect your lightning and then just kill you. Easy. So, this next icon, Hanzo, is for the better Shadow Shot. Shadow Shot is, with this, leaves a little trap if you prematurely shoot it. Can be useful at saying, hey, I just want this area right away, you know what I mean? As with the other Shadow Shot, you shoot it down prematurely and it's, you know, procs and then it goes away shortly after. So with this, you have to be a little bit more mindful of how you shoot it, especially with Dawnblade being so prevalent now. You have to sometimes, if you know they're going to cast the Dawnblade and or they just casted the Dawnblade and they're coming in, you're going to have to shoot this thing at the ceiling sometimes. If you're on a map like Burning Shrine, that's a perfect example for almost anything, and you're in that middle room where the heavies are in comp, you're going to probably have to be a little bit more smart than just shooting it at the floor and shoot it on the ceiling. Because they're going to come from above. That's the only way you're going to tag them. Or at least put it on the top of that little pillar thing. That'd be the best. So it's pretty strong. It can counter every super in the game. Any roaming super that walks through it is fucked. It's got some weaknesses. You know, you can just kind of go around a corner, proc it, and then stand back, and then find your other way around. So the reason I'm going to put it in C tier, not in B tier, I believe it does its job very well. But the one thing that stinks is somebody can just, you know, stop running towards you after you cast it, and then go the other way. Or you're just going to use it against the one guy whenever he approaches you, and you're going to counter him, and that's great, but that's all it's going to be good for. If you end up using it against Guardians, just like a group of guys on C, you get a big kill, then, you know, now they're free to use whatever roaming super they want because, let's be honest, you're probably going to be the only Shadow Shot on the team, and if you're facing a smart team, they're going to be like, oh, he's using Shadow Shot. I'll just wait, you know, a little bit before I cast my easily vulnerable Striker Titan. After he uses it, I'm free to do whatever I want. So, you know, a little inconsistent. Not the weakest, though. It's still really good, you know. It's good for getting that mountaintop challenge done or whatever. This is the Top Tree Striker with the extra grenades. It's not terrible. I don't feel like it's A tier because it doesn't have as many perks compared to the Top Tree getting all of its health and its duration. And I don't believe it's necessarily A. These other ones are extremely strong, I believe, and are just guaranteed to kill them up. Let's think about this for a second. Yeah, this one confuses me a little bit. I don't see as many of these Striker Titans, and I don't have the most experience with it. But knowing that it can still use the knee, and it's got a little bit of a better super countering ability with the whole doing more damage on the slam. Any super that comes around a corner and you well-time this, you will slam them and you will win against them. And then have a roamer that's extremely annoying to go against, but doesn't last forever. So I think this is a strong roamer. I think this deserves an A spot. Just the only reason it's not used as much is because Bottom Tree Striker is really that freaking good. It's insane. So we're getting down to our last two. This is for Well of Radiance. Well of Radiance, people I don't think are really going to like when I'm about to do this. I'm about to place this in D, below Ward of Dawn. I know there are a lot of people who just prefer to, that really like playing with their guns, like this tree. It's a good tree. Don't get me wrong. This is not me saying that this is a bad tree at all. The grenades are great. All of that is great. I'm just talking about the super and how easy it is to get pooped on. I've countered wells of radiance by just putting my Wardodon on top of them and beating the crap out of them. Well, I had to use my shotgun some, or else they would just heal it up. But you know what I'm saying. I mostly just came and I just aped the crap out of them with a Wardodon. It was so easy. Hammers can counter this. Dawn Blade can counter this. Any of the hammers can counter this. Golden Gun will just crap on you. You're not going to really be able to do too much. One thing to note about Well of Radiance, while it's extremely vulnerable, you can do some stuff like one-shotting, body-shotting with the sniper on Guardians. Like, it's pretty good against Guardians, but against most supers, you're going to be SOL. You can one-shot headshot with snipes. I don't think that that's the greatest thing still. I feel like people are still going to be smarter and, wait to cast it until they're closer to you type stuff. I just really don't think that Well of Radiance is that good. Now, I've seen some really skilled players using Well of Radiance, and they can pull off some crazy stuff, but that's few and far between. I think it deserves a D tier. And the last thing is the fastest hunter super in the game, if you want to call it that. Way of the Wraith. I think the only place that this place deserves is B or A. And I've seen it also with some smart play countering a lot of supers in this game with the power attack. So I believe A is a good spot for it. It's still strong even after the nerfs. It's got one thing that no super in the game has, which is stealth, and it's fast. All of its melee abilities give you the ability to quickly kind of, jerk your movement in one direction, just like strikers are able to do with their little Niki. So it's pretty versatile. It's not able to kill a Dawn Blade. It's not going to. But it's got good duration. And of course, this isn't considering using the Gwaizen Vest or switching off of something and using the Gwaizen Vest or whatever. Gwaizen Vest. But yeah, no, this thing still works really, really well in my opinion. It's easy to kill a big group of Guardians. It's not as strong as it used to be. If it was, I would easily put this in S tier. But luckily, and I mean this, A tier, I think it belongs there. It can, if you're smart about it, you can kill Striker Titans with the melee attack. You can kind of get around the block of a middle tree. Arc Strider, although that's really hard. Earlier I talked about just being able to block Way of the Wraith, but that's not guaranteed. They kind of clash. But yeah, it can really, really go up against some supers if you know how to use this super and just, hit them once with a normal attack, power attack, they're dead. And then, of course, it's not as strong as it used to be, but with how fast it is and how the perks, or not the perks, the melee abilities kind of work together, this thing's still going to be strong. This thing's got some duration, it's fast, it's hard to pin down if you're a normal Guardian, and it's just a really balanced super now. I like where it is right now. So this is how my tier list is going to end up. But hopefully this promotes a little bit more discussion, because this is super opinionated. I'd like to know how people have this ranked. And this is all going to change very soon with the season of Opulence. I just wanted to make this specifically because this PvP season was so terribly memey and dominated, and mostly just, the subclass usage was based on how good your super was. So that's the tier list. I hope you guys like that. I'm going to sign off for now. This has been Tidal Wave with a very bad opinion yet again. I'll see y'all later. Hopefully we'll have some more gunplay in the next season, right? Adios.